Hello, welcome to my channel. In this video, I'm going to talk about collisions. Collision happens when two colliders collide with each other. And I want to make a script for it called collision test. In collision test, I show you how to call collision methods. But before that, we should add a rigid body to the object that we want to use physics with. And collision is a physics event, so we must use rigid body when we want to detect collisions. And I add rigid body to this cube. Now we open our collision test script and remove all default methods, and instead of those we create a function called OnTriggerEnter. This method calls every time our object collide with another object. And in this method or function, I write debug.log and I just write collision.gameObject.name, and it will print the game object that we are collided with. I save this script, head back to Unity, wait for it to recompile assemblies, and then I want to attach this code, collision test, into our cube. Now you can see we already give a message called plane. Now if I go and collide with this pole, you can see we have another message called light pole 5. And as you can see, this function calls every frame that we want to. We can implement a logic. For example, we write a code if collision dot game object dot compare tag and write a tag, and then we do some logic. For example, if this collision test was for a bullet, we can see if our collision game object tag was enemy, then we write collision dot game object dot get component, for example enemy, and then take damage, bullet damage. These are not real scenarios. I just want to show you examples for you to know. We could have a script called enemy, we could have a tag called enemy, and we could have a bullet damage, or just simply I can call it here. And if we have a script called enemy init, we should declare a public function called take damage, and in that take damage we can reduce our enemy damage. But in this video I want to show you another type of the collision inter. and that type is on OnTriggerEnter. OnTriggerEnter, excuse me. OnTriggerEnter has two other parameters. Instead of collision, it has collider. And in this scenario, I can write debug.log, and here I prefix I attach another string to our message so that we know it calls from here, other.gameObject.name, and I want to call it collider. In our previous example for collision-inter, we just have colliders that were solid materials. But we have another system in Unity. We can make a cube, and I make it big. And instead of having box collider that is solid and the items can't go through it, if I check this is trigger check mark, I can now go to this cube, and if I go into it, I will have a message from our OnTriggerEnter function. And then if I go through this, you can see it gives me message collider cube 2, which is this new cube that we just created now. So we can also delete this cube renderer, and we no longer see it. But now that I go into it, you can see our collider count, our message count became 2, which means there is 2 times that we go into that queue. And this OnTriggerEnter events are useful when we want to, for example, go into the some place and then we want to play some cutscene. You can use them for that purpose. And on top of on collision-inter and on trigger-inter, we have methods. For example, on collision inter, exit, stay, and 2D version of them. And this goes for triggers too. Trigger, inter, stay, and exit. We have these 3 functions that we can use for our game. I hope you found this video helpful, and like